Thank you, Janet. And thank you, Renita, for your message and for that beautiful music. Thank you. Well, on Tuesday this week, someone asked me, so are you ready for Christmas? And I said, that's a really good question. I don't think I am. I don't know if I am. And that when she asked me that, it really dawned on me how not at peace I am right now. I just got married, 6 months ago. We celebrated, we celebrated our 6 months, and so there's just a lot happening. I coordinated our Christmas service last week, and so when she asked me that, because I remember feeling last week that I just said, Lord, I'm not feeling the Christmas spirit. You know, I see the lights, and growing up, I loved this time of year, and I still love it, but to a different extent. And I turned 27 this year, and I'm realizing as I'm going into my womanhood that and my thoughts are not as innocent as they used to be. I'm not looking at the world through, as what the saying goes, rose-colored glasses. Through the eyes of carefreeness or innocence. And so I miss that. I miss actually looking forward to celebrating Christmas and actually knowing how many days I have left till Christmas. I didn't even realize it's Christmas Eve tomorrow. I kept forgetting. I'm like, wait, when's Christmas? Or like, okay, Tuesday's supposed to be my day off, but then, oh yeah, Tuesday is Christmas, so that's a good thing. It works out. Thank you, Lord. But you know, it's just as we get older, and I hope we can all relate to that. That as we experience more of the trials in this life, it can be hard to look at things with wonder and with the imagination that we once had when we were children. And so, am I ready for Christmas? I can say yes, I am ready now, but my question now that I'm asking myself and that I'd like to ask you is, what are you looking forward to? I initially, when she asked me that question, I said, I'm not looking forward to Christmas. Thankfully, I'm not having to spend it with I love my biological family. But this is also the first Christmas that I am not spending with my parents. I'm spending it with my new parents, which is awesome, and my in-laws. But there's a lot for me to process at this time. And so before I would have Christmas with my cousins, and we would have to spend so much money. I mean, there's all these overpriced things at Walmart and stuff, or wherever you shop. I'm like, I don't want to buy presents for you. I'm sorry, isn't my presence enough a gift? I don't want to have to buy you a gift. But so thankfully, I don't have that stress on me this year of having to buy a gift for my cousins for a white elephant. Even though Stephen had to spend a little bit of money for his coworkers at work, but that's okay. But am I looking forward to Christmas? And is it just Christmas or just this time of year when we dress differently? You know, we wear the red and the green, and we see the lights. I used to love seeing lights because my dad would say when Worldwide Church of God was actually allowed to put lights. We changed. And then we were actually allowed to put lights. I remember asking my dad, why are we suddenly putting lights up on the house? And why are we suddenly putting a tree up? And I love what my dad said. He said, because Jesus is the light of the world. And this is just a reminder for us that's why else do you think that a candle looks more beautiful when the lights are out? Or when the Christmas lights are more beautiful and stand out more when in the dark. Because Jesus is the light, and Jesus is living in you. And so that means you are one of the little lights walking around in this dark world. And so, what are you looking forward to? Some of us had a really hard 2018. I personally, I started 2018 really, really stressed out. I had just gotten engaged in January, and then I was transitioning jobs. I was going through 3 life transitions at one time within 4 months. And I'd never gone through that before. And I remember asking God, are you going to get me through this? Why are you making me go through this? But looking back, there's a lot that we're processing. The year is old. There's a lot that we went through. We have a new grandchild. We have a new baby. People are born throughout the year. People die throughout the year. People get sick. We had Jan Rushing. Hi, good to see you. She was diagnosed with breast cancer this year. We have people that we remember in our lives who are no longer here, especially during this time of year. Some people die on Christmas Day, and that makes us not even look forward to this holiday. I don't even want to think about Christmas, because all I can think about is Granddad that died on his deathbed. Things like that. So what are we looking forward to? There's a member from GCI Los Angeles, and her name is Johnny. And she said her mom told her, we should always have something to look forward to. And the thing about human beings that makes us different from a squirrel or a dog, your dog, or your cat, is that they just live on instinct. I just gotta eat. I just gotta kill to survive. But we're not animals in that way. We're not monsters. We're not just trying to survive. If I find that I'm just trying to survive, I find that I'm not being human. If I'm just trying to get through the day or live paycheck after paycheck, am I really thriving as a human being? And so as human beings, we need to have something to hold on to. We need to have something to hope for. We need to have something to look forward to. And so what are you looking forward to? For example, for me, in 2019, I'm looking forward to, in June, celebrating my first full year of marriage. On New Year's Day, my parents and I are going to volunteer for the first time at the Rose Parade, so I'm looking forward to starting the new year off in that way. And also in July, Stephen and I are hoping to go to New Zealand, and it'll be my first time in New Zealand, and which I've always wanted to go there. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Some of the short term. Some of the long-term goals or things that I'm hopeful for, that I'm looking forward to, is eventually becoming a mother. I'm looking forward to getting a newer used car, because my car's from 1998, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking also forward to getting a dog. Oh, this is the long term. I don't know if the baby or the dog is going to go first, but we'll see. God's timing, right? I'm also looking forward to a time when I'll have a new body. When I don't have to wear contacts to see. I don't have to pay money to other people for me to see in the world. I mean, literally have to pay money in order to see. I look forward to not having to wear glasses anymore, or having to take daily multivitamins to stay live as long of a life as I can. I look forward to never knowing what it's like again to be stressed, or angry, or depressed, or hopeless. I look forward to a time where depression and hopelessness and death will no longer exist, and will no longer be at the back of our minds, where fear will no longer exist. And as followers of Jesus Christ, as believers in the good news, that is what we hope for. That Jesus has come. He is coming, and He's still showing up through the church in your life. He's still a light in your life, and He's also going to come back again. So as Christians, we look backward to look forward. We look back on God's goodness. We look back on God's faithfulness to His people and to us at the same time, to look forward to His keeping His promises. I have an aunt that is depressed right now, and that's one of the reasons why I'm just not looking forward to this holiday, because I used to think that my family was perfect. And every time my parents tell me about my aunt who's going through this depression, I'm reminded of how broken we are, of how broken our society is, of how broken our families are. And I think, well, what do I have to look forward to? I think of estranged, broken relationships within my family, family members who have not spoken to each other for 10 plus years. I look forward to that having an end. Amen? I look forward to an end to bitterness. I made a new friend this week. Her name is Esther, and I met up with her on Tuesday. And she, thankfully, the Spirit coordinated our conversation in such a way that she was able to pour out her soul to me, and how she is wallowing in this bitterness against a certain family member that she has to see every single day because she lives with her. And I remember, and she said, with her face in her hands, she said, "I hate bitterness. It shouldn't exist. Why do we even have it? Bitterness shouldn't exist. It needs to die." And I remember telling her, yes, that's exactly how God looks at the sin and darkness and brokenness in our world. Because, you know what, bitterness, broken relationships, that shouldn't exist. The fact that your family members haven't spoken to each other for 10 years, that there has not been a reconciliation of forgiveness, that is wrong. And that is something that the Spirit is fighting against, and that He wants to mend. And so what we hope for is forgiveness, is reconciliation. That heaven is here. We're going through heaven and hell at the same time every day. We go through that. Hell is here. Sometimes we even choose hell because we'd rather choose not to forgive someone because it's easier. That's hell. But heaven, God's promises of His presence, His ministry of presence happens when we choose to forgive, when we choose to reconcile. That is heaven also coming. And so thank you, Renita, for mentioning that the 4 Sundays of Advent are peace, hope, joy, and love. And so Advent, I don't really know what the word Advent means, but Advent means coming. Coming. So we celebrate the season of Advent because we celebrate the coming of God in our worlds. The coming of this divine, supernatural, very personal being at the same time, becoming flesh and bone, and being able to relate to everything that we go through on a daily basis. We celebrate that. But also what's at stake during this time is our faith sometimes, because the year is old. We've gone through a lot this year. I was going through Ted Johnston's blog, The Surprising God. And he refers to Robert Webber. And here Robert Webber says, "What is at stake during Advent is an assessment of our current state of faith and living, and our commitment to keep on living in the hope in which we have been called." And so when my girlfriend asked me, "Are you looking forward to Christmas?" that forced me to look at my current state of faith, my current state of living, that I'm not living in the hopefulness of God. I'm just kind of surviving like an animal, just trying to get through the day. I'm living less than human. But God doesn't call us to live like that. God didn't make us or die for us to live like that. He said, I'm coming that I may give you life and life abundantly, life to the fullest. And so life to the fullest means commitment to going and doing this life in the same direction in hope in which we have been called. So as Christians, we are called to be givers of hope. We are givers of hope in this world. Hebrews 11, verse 11, it's actually on your bulletin today. Here the writer of Hebrews says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for." We have faith in something that we hope for, in someone or something that's going to happen, something that's going to come, hoping for something. We have faith in that for the evidence of what? Things that we can see. Things that we don't see. See, we don't know exactly when Jesus is going to come back. And before, when the prophets in the Old Testament, when God was revealing himself to the prophets and said, I will send a Messiah, they didn't know when the Messiah was going to come. There were all these different ways that God was communicating to his people that Jesus would eventually be fulfilled in the person of Jesus, but they had no idea what was happening. And there were 400 years of silence that seemed to be from God. But then after 400 years, finally, the Messiah was born. So did God keep his promise? Yeah. And so it's been over 2,000 years now, supposedly, that Jesus said, I'm going to come back. I'm going to return for you, my people. I'm going to return. 2,000 years. God, are you still here? Yes. I did it once. I'm going to do it again. And so we have hope in that. And because faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things that are not seen with the naked eye. And I like how Ted Johnston continues. The Advent season is a powerful and important reminder that God is not remote. God is not aloof. God is not uninvolved in your life. He's not just sitting back in his throne and being like, why aren't you praying to me, Jillian? Your prayer life isn't very good right now. Or you're not reading the Bible as much as you should, Jillian. But he's saying, Jillian, I am inviting you to this loving relationship. I want it. I want to be involved in your life. I want to show up in your life. And I already have. And so God is not remote. We're remembering that during this time of year. God is not uninvolved. This Advent season tells us that God has come. God is coming and will come again. Referring to John 14, verse 3. Stephen, if you could put that up, please. John 14, verse 3, Jesus tells his brothers, when everything is ready, I will come and get you so that you will always be with me where I am. Jesus promised to his followers, to the people that believed in him, that walked with him, that he will return. And so this truth helps offset the message that's really prevalent in our really selfish culture. And so even though the year might be old by now, Robert Webber says, Advent is a time when God breaks in on us with new surprises and touches us with a renewing and a restoring power. God's power, God's Spirit is renewing and restorative. And so this is a time of the year where we remember, how did God show up in 2018 for me this year? How was his presence made known in my life? And some of us, we may not be able to answer that question right away. We may not be able to answer that question maybe not till years down the line. But the point is that Jesus isn't just the reason for the season. Jesus is the reason for everything. Jesus is the reason why you even exist. Why you're even here. Colossians 1, verses 15 to 17. Colossians 1, verses 15 to 17. Talks about the supremacy of Christ. And here the Apostle Paul says, He, Jesus, is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For by him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities. All things were created by him and for him. He, Jesus, is before all things, and in him all things hold together. In him. Basically, what I believe Paul is saying is that Jesus literally is keeping our universe together. He's keeping your body, His Spirit. If His Spirit left you in a split second, you'd be dead. But the fact that you're breathing, your breath is the Ruach, the Holy Spirit. He is the reason why you live. And so, therefore, live. Don't just survive, but thrive. Live. Live abundantly. And how do we live abundantly? We live with hope. So we look forward with hopefulness by looking backward at the faithfulness of God. God can be trusted to keep His promise. He can be trusted because He showed up over 2,000 years ago in a way that none of us could have ever imagined. And He's still showing up here and now. And He will show up and restore all things in a time that we don't know, but we know that He will. Hebrews 10, verse 23. Here the writer of Hebrews says, "Without wavering, let us hold tightly to the hope we say we have. For God can be trusted to keep His promise." So as followers of Jesus Christ, as participants with God, part of this Jesus movement that is still going on and will continue even after we're gone from this earth, after we die, the Jesus movement will continue. Now, I think it'd be awesome if Jesus came in my lifetime. But even if He doesn't, it's okay, because I know He's going to keep His promise, and my grandparents who died, I'm going to see them again. I'm going to see restoration in my family. For my aunt who's going through depression, who's probably losing a husband, maybe, she will be restored. My life will be restored. Stephen's life will be restored. All of us, and we're going to be able to get to know each other on a completely different level. Because God, we'll be in the presence, the full presence of God. And so as followers of Jesus, as participants of this Jesus movement, let us dare to trust God. Dare to trust that He is good. Let us dare to look forward with hopefulness by looking back at the faithfulness of God. For God has come, and He is coming. He will come again. Amen.